Okay, so welcome, Helen Elizabeth. Thank you for joining me today to talk about what it is to be a modern day priestess and what that actually means and how it feels and why we engage on this path. So we're kind of talking priestess to priestess here, which is fun and feels really, really nice thing to do, to talk about it publicly. So would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, my name's Helen Elizabeth, and I am a priestess. I'm a flower and vibrational essences practitioner. I'm a soul transformation therapist and also a soul plan practitioner as well. So my passion is really with helping women to find the sanctity in their own bodies and in connection with nature.
Very beautiful. You inspire me greatly by everything that you do and how you've stayed true to your path in so many ways. So we know each other because you took part in the diploma in flower and vibrational essences that I have the honor to facilitate. And then last year in 2019, I began facilitating the Star of Gaia Priestess processes, and you kind of jumped in. I think you were actually the first person to join within about 10 minutes of the email going in.
I was waiting.
Yeah, so I know sometimes it's difficult to have words for this kind of thing, but what was the call for you?
I just knew that this was my next step on the path. So my background very much as a young woman was in shamanism and paganism, and I'd already studied within Druidry and a lot of earth-based spirituality. So in many ways, coming onto the diploma was actually an extension of that. It was my sort of what I would call my witchcraft, my pagan spirituality, if you want to use that those terms, that actually led me to the diploma. So it was so timely, actually. I think I finished the diploma in the August, and you had said that you were going to be running the priestess process, and I knew it was coming, and I just saw the email drop into my inbox, and there was just this immediate call from source. This is your next step. This is your next level up, if you like. Yeah, very instinctual. You just know.
Yeah, and it's actually very similar to what happened to me. I signed up within about 2 hours, I think, of my own priestess process. So for many people, it doesn't have to be like that, but for many people it is. You just know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, just no question.
Yeah, so that was about a year ago. And obviously, as I said, when you joined the priestess process, you are so beautifully wise in many, many areas of your life, and you shared with us a little bit about yourself there. So clearly, when the priestess calls, she calls us for a reason. So how do you feel that you're different now to where you were maybe about a year ago?
I've got a voice and an online presence now, and she gave me the confidence to do that. So I felt very vulnerable being online. When I found the flower and vibrational essences diploma, I was experiencing chronic fatigue. So my battery was very, very flat. And one of the things that ran my battery flat was being with people and being very visible. So part of my fear, and I think, along with a good dollop of wounded healer stuff going on as well, was a fear of being visible. And I think, when I look back the year, it's actually just been a year since I launched my website, and I am so completely different in terms of what I'm happy to do and to stand up and talk about. This last October, I would never have come on a live stream with you to talk about what I do, let alone, being a healer or being a priestess, essentially in public. That would have been completely terrifying. And now it actually feels quite easy and natural.
So what was it in the priestess process that actually gave you that courage and voice to say who you really were? Because now you actually have a website with your own name. Before you were kind of hidden, weren't you? For good reasons, you might say, but you're not anymore.
No, not at all. I'm very visible, and I'm very out there now. And I still, some days I do still struggle with that. I have stuff to work through around it, but it doesn't bother me in the same way. And I think what the priestess process did for me was really connect me up to a deeper level with source. And in doing that, I made a relationship with who I was on a more universal level. Who my soul actually was. The priestess process really helped me to understand that, and it also gave me more of a language to talk about it. So I struggled with what I was here to do and who I was here to serve, and I think the priestess process actually gave me a language to be able to talk about that. And some of the missing pieces too.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about that, these missing pieces and the language? Tell us a little bit more for you what that is.
Yeah, so I think, and it's something that I still work with a lot, and I work with it with clients now, is the awakening and the recognition of the divine feminine and the divine masculine within ourselves with relation to our Venus and our Mars. And it was really starting to create a relationship between those. I've always been very interested in astrology, and I've worked with astrology a lot, but the priestess process brought a whole new language for your Venus and for your Mars. And I'd come from a place of very much the old sun sign astrology, and I feel my Sagittarian nature, which is my sun sign, very strongly, but I hadn't really taken very much notice of my Venus, which is Capricorn, or my Mars, which is Virgo. And the priestess process really helped me to understand, firstly, that those were both earth signs, so just how strong the earth is in my chart. And secondly, how so much of what I'd experienced in my life had come out of that Venus in Capricorn. So when we think about Venus in Capricorn, then she's obviously about the earth, she's about structure, she's about sovereignty, about rulership, about for me she's very much about women's autonomy. And really getting to know her helped me to make sense of so much that I had done previously in my life. It helped me to bring all the bits together and just sort of say, oh, that's why I did that. That's why for my 10th birthday I asked for a set of essential oils. That's why one of my first books was a herbal that I used to pour through as a child, looking at the colour plates and the pictures. That's why I wanted to be a herbalist. That's why I trained as a midwife. That's why I, that's even why I did fashion design, because I loved colour and I was passionate about women's bodies and, the sense of us as a sacred vessel for creation, for manifestation. But I didn't know that that's what it was. I didn't know that that was what was manifesting through me from source.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, and you really get that, and you get that all of a sudden there's a funny echo. Can you hear the echo?
You're a bit fuzzy, but it's okay.
Yeah, I can hear an echo as well, so that's not so good. But I'll focus on you talking rather than me. But yes, it was a very similar thing for me with my own Aquarian nature. And I think it's fascinating that for most of us, and we are always where we're absolutely supposed to be. And because we don't realize it, we're always looking for something else, and we're looking outside of ourselves. And for me, your journey sounds very similar to mine, and it completely confirmed that I was in the right place at the right time and that I had done nothing wrong. And that it was ownership of myself was the only thing that I needed.
Yes, yeah. And like you, I feel like, and it's still something that I struggle with, is not necessarily being present, always looking for the next thing, or feeling like I'm doing something wrong, or not being in the right place at the right time. But yeah, like the priestess process, it just brought so many bits together, and it really helped me trust that sense of being in the right place at the right time, and that allowed me to find a greater sense of presence as well, and happiness within the moment, just being, that I think I have a greater sense of abundance and satisfaction in life that I never had before.
Yeah, I hear that. So I know you shared with me before that you trained as a priestess a long, long time ago when you were a young woman.
I
And
did.
so when we met and when you followed the priestess process through the Star of Gaia priestess process that comes through me, you were already a priestess. But you also shared with me that they were different. They felt different to you. Can you share with me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I I think I internalized a lot of beliefs around scarcity and around believing that in order to be of service, that I actually needed to be poor, and that it was wrong to charge well and healthily for what I do. And that set up a belief pattern within me that maybe what I was doing was not of as much worth as it actually was. So I had a lot of stuff that I had to unravel around charging financially, certainly for what I do, and feeling that I was allowed to do that. And actually, not only that I was allowed to do that, but that was what the universe, that was what Source wanted for me. Source wants us to be nourished. It wants us to be well. It wants us to be glowing with possibility and abundant. So actually, I had a lot of blocks in my system, which I think were actually much older. I'd come to my earlier priestess work, I think, with a lot of that on board. Some of the work that I do is around soul plan and numerology within our birth names and our birth charts, and it's kind of a different way of looking at the way that we manifest source. But I have a lot in my soul plan around the divine feminine wound and around mother wounds and feeling a lack of abundance. So for me, that's actually something I think that I am here within this lifetime actually to help, transmute within the collective, if you like. That's part of my sacred work. So the priestess process that I worked with you really affirmed that part of our sacred work is to learn how to be nourished, and part of that is financially.
Yeah, it's about receiving, isn't it? And it's about intention, and that it's absolutely okay to include money in that. Absolutely okay.
Yes. Because money is just an energetic representation of food or love or nourishment, or it's just a representation. It's just the tokens that we deal in. So if we're saying essentially that I'm not worthy enough to have a healthy bank account, what we're saying is I'm not worthy enough to have food in the cupboard, and I'm not worthy to be loved, and I'm not worthy to have a house or a roof over my head. It's all that. It's the same energy stream to me, I think.
Yeah, I'm not worthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The priestess process is a beautiful way because we can all hear those words and say those words and stand in front of the mirror as per Louise Hay, bless her heart, and say all these things. But if we don't feel it, if we don't change the energy inside ourselves, then that's where that work happens beautifully inside. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I really hope that it's helped lots of people to understand what it is to be a modern day priestess. Although I'm sure you and I would love to kind of do the thing with the robes. Essentially, nowadays, we don't get to do that, especially not during the times we're living in at the moment. But we can still be beautiful inside and just get on and be who we are in life. So just as a parting word, or some words from you, if there's anybody listening who doesn't really know whether they need to follow a priestess path or not, if they think maybe they could just do it on their own, which maybe you can, what would you say? Do you have any words of advice?
I would say you'll know. So obviously for me, it was immediate. When your email dropped in, I just knew that that's what I needed to do. And I think, like maybe you alluded to earlier, that maybe for some people it isn't going to be as, thunder and lightning as that, but there will be a whisper, I think, inside. This process calls us. It just calls us, and for some of us that call is louder, and for some of it is softer, but it's a strong call. You'll feel it within you. And for me, one of the great joys of it, and within my own work as well, is working with a circle of women. It's being in that shared feminine space, you know, and you know, men as well if they chose to join. But for me, there's that sense of working within that shared feminine energy that you don't get when you take this path alone. And I think that shared space and that witness was really important to me.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I get that. Thank you. Thank you, Helen Elizabeth. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for sharing your heart and your priestess journey. I wish you many blessings on your path ahead. I know it's only just started.
It is.
And that it's going to, you know, magnify out there in very beautiful ways and days maybe as well. So thank you very, very much for being with me.
Thank you, Sarah.